I was driving south out of Kalispell toward Missoula, and I had no idea where I was going. All I knew was I needed to do some work on my computer. So yesterday I made that my mission to find a campsite at a high elevation with good cell service that I could spend the day at near Missoula, Montana. And I found it in Helena National Forest, and that's where I'm at right now, Sunday night, August 30th, 2020. I spent all day today in my office on my computer catching up on business. It was a beautiful day today. The temperature was in the low 70s and the sun kept the batteries charged. And this is such a great spot too. It's at the end of a long forest road that wraps its way up the mountain. I have a great view to the south and I'm only a stone's throw from the city. The one last thing that I have to do on my computer today is upload last week's GPX tracks to Dropbox. And I use a program called GPX Editor on my Mac to take the master GPX file that I downloaded from Gaia GPS and break my data out into multiple files. So I put all the hiking tracks in one file, I put all the street tracks in another file, 4x4 tracks, dirt tracks, campsite waypoints, and so on. I do this to make things just a little bit easier for my Patreon subscribers, so if they're only interested in downloading my camping waypoints, then they don't have to download a bunch of bulky track logs too. This week I'm going to prioritize cleaning up the Jeep and getting it serviced. The power window on the passenger front is not working, so I want that taken care of. I need the electronic sway bar disconnect fixed. It's past due for an oil change, and I also need a tire rotation. So I'm going to head into town, get coffee, and find a shop or probably go to the dealer to get those things taken care of. It's midday and I just finished up at the Jeep dealer in Missoula, Montana. I got the oil change taken care of, the tire rotation. I inquired about the passenger side power window repair and the electronic sway bar disconnect. And to do that stuff, I need to make an appointment. Their earliest opening is 2 weeks out. So I said that I'm going to hold off for now. But since the sway bar disconnect is something that I can easily take care of myself, I did go to the parts counter and inquire about pricing and availability. They can have a new actuator here for me tomorrow coming from Portland for $2,100. The price of that piece is absolutely absurd, especially given how prone to failure that is. But I've pretty much had it with this flaky electronic sway bar disconnect. And I think at my earliest convenience I'm going to replace it with an air-actuated one that's operated off of my ARB air compressor. I was researching while waiting for the Jeep service to be done, and there are two companies that make pneumatic-style sway bar disconnect actuators. Evo Manufacturing and Team Tech Off-Road. A good friend of mine uses the Team Tech unit and really recommends it, although I'm going to do a little bit more research before I pull the trigger. I have plenty of time. I don't know where I'm going to get the work done yet. The malice that got into the Jeep a couple weeks ago made a bit of a mess. So I'm making it a point to gut the interior and vacuum a lot of it up. I found the nest in the compartment where the Webasto heater lives, and there were shards of paper towels all over the place. Leftovers. Tonight I'm graced with a massive plate of leftovers. I misjudged the serving size a little bit. I will eat it all, but I'm sure I'm going to regret it later. Tonight I'm camped at BLM land, and I'm somewhere east of Missoula. And I was wandering and I found this fire ring. There was already a stack of firewood. So here we are. "8:30 p.m. on Monday night. I am full from a hearty meal, and I'm in the camper for the night. It is actually quite cold out. It's probably, well, last time I checked, it was in the low 40s in the nearby town, and the temperature feels like the upper 30s. So it was a very welcome campfire, and I think I'll be doubling up the sleeping bags tonight, which is fine by me. I sleep better in colder weather. A welcome sight for weary travelers. The 1940s fire warden's cabin ahead of you and the 1890s stage stop cabin set back in the trees pay tribute to a Montana tradition of offering shelter in an unpredictable climate. Garnet, Montana came to be in the 1860s due to a gold mining boom. It prospered for about 40 years, and then in the early 20th century the town diminished. A lot of the buildings were razed by fire. It bounced back a little bit in the 1930s, but then declined again. It's become what you see here today. A beautiful and well cared for glimpse into history. When you come here at 7 a.m. on a Tuesday in early September, it feels like a true ghost town. I've got this place all to myself. This is the local forge. Garnet, Montana. What an extraordinary place. I've already spent 4 hours here walking around with a camera, so I'm gonna head back to the Jeep and press onward. Possible campsite for tonight in Helena National Forest. There's a fire ring, decent cell service. It's close to the dusty forest road, but there is a great stream with a footbridge over there. It's still early, so I'm going to keep exploring, but I might just come back to this. Campsites with cell service are an added bonus. You might be thinking, oh, you're enjoying the great outdoors, Chris. Why would you be looking for cell service? I would say 95% of the time when I'm in the backcountry, I do not have cell service, so there's no shortage of enjoying the great outdoors. A beautiful emerald-colored lake at a higher elevation. I didn't encounter any more camping opportunities on the way up here, and the wind is also up. So I'm going to turn around, head back down the mountain, and settle in one of those campsites that I encountered on the way here. Leftover pizza from Jersey Boy and Whitefish. There's no point in using potable water or my spring water supply when I can draw from a stream. This charming footbridge just took me out. This log flipped up and landed on my abdomen. Not all of these are nailed down. That was very unpleasant. Socks are wet and I'm bleeding. Switching to flip-flops for now. Ow. I'm going to take one last stab at diagnosing the electronic sway bar disconnect before I commit to replacing it. After all, I've had rodents in the Jeep, so my wiring might have been compromised, but I really think it's a bad actuator. The electronic sway bar disconnect is fuse J11, right next to the fuse pooler. And it looks good. This is the actuator right here underneath the front bumper. And if you're a regular viewer, you've seen me go at this before. But it's easy to remove with a 15mm socket and just 3 bolts. So I can have it out in a matter of moments. And yes, I did accidentally break the plastic cover for the electrical connector. My bad, I was angry. If my part number was correct and no one was making an error, this is the part that the dealer quoted me $2,100 to replace. I am going to put this on the toilet, which is where it belongs, and plug it back into the wiring harness. See what happens. Alright, I've got the Jeep ignition on. I'm pressing the button. I don't think anything's happening. It seems to be dead on arrival. It's not responding at all. And you know things are bad when the only ace up your sleeve is to smack something with a hammer and hope for the best. Alright, I'm back in the Jeep for the night, and I am hungry for a snack. So I found this partial bag of stale wheat thins and a block of Tillamook cheddar, which I'm not sure where I got that. I don't know if she brought that or if I got this from Portland. Either way, it's in my fridge, so I'm having cheese and crackers. Tillamook, man. You can't tell the crackers are stale when you eat them with cheese. You might be wondering, what's the big deal about the sway bar disconnect issue? What does it do? I talked about this a little bit before, last year when I was on the Mojave Road. Why do we disconnect our sway bar when driving off-road? There's a couple reasons. And first, it allows the suspension to articulate when we drive over varied terrain. And this enables the weight of the vehicle to be better distributed among all four contact patches. So when every tire has an equal amount of pressure on the ground, that translates to a significant increase in traction. So first, it's a traction aid. The second reason, which I feel is often overlooked or at least underappreciated, is the element of comfort. I'm on the Mojave Road, which is 130 miles of primitive two-track. It's uneven and varied, and the last thing I want is to be bouncing around inside of my Jeep. So if I'm driving along with the sway bar connected, as I would for the street, the whole Jeep is allowed to pitch back and forth, and the person inside, they smack their head against the window and they're not happy. Now, approach the same hole with your sway bar disconnected, and the Jeep stays relatively level, and the suspension is doing all the moving. The suspension is what is responding to the terrain, not the body of the Jeep. So this person is able to enjoy their coffee without spilling it while driving down a technical road. So when the vehicle passes through potholes and dips, it's the front axle that's moving up and down, and not the whole body of the vehicle rocking back and forth. It makes an immense difference, and Jeep Wrangler Rubicons are equipped with a button on the dashboard that allows you to quickly and easily disconnect your sway bar from the driver's seat. And that's what's broken. It's Wednesday, September 2nd, around midday, and I covered some ground this morning. I'm currently exploring Lewis and Clark National Forest, southeast of Great Falls, Montana. ridiculously photogenic lookout shelter that it looks like you can rent, although I didn't see how on the signage. Probably a Forest Service website. I'd love to camp up here on the mountain, but the wind is out of hand, and it looks like there might be some precipitation passing to the northwest. I love a challenge, but that fallen tree is too deeply rooted on one side and too big to pull out of the way. I think my best bet would be to use a lot of the timber and deadfall in the area and build a ramp. But it's 4:00 p.m. I'm starving and I don't know where I'm going to spend the night yet. So I am backtracking. You win this time, Deadfall. Peace out. It's Wednesday night and I'm at Moose Creek Campground in Lewis and Clark. After exploring the higher elevations, I work my way southeast, hoping to find a decent creekside dispersed camping site. And there were a few, but most of them were taken, until I got to this campground. And from what I could tell by looking at the map, this campground was the last camping opportunity before the forest boundary, so it was getting late in the day, and I just jumped on it. But it's a nice site, there's not too many people here, and I'm right by the creek, so I'm going to sleep well tonight. It's Thursday morning and I'm now in Bozeman, Montana. I broke camp early this morning to travel down here because I thought it would be a good place to edit and publish this week's episode. But I kicked off the morning with some coffee at Treeline Coffee Roasters. Now I'm taking a walk around town to acquaint myself with the area. Like the day can't begin without coffee, the week can't complete, seemingly, until I have some pizza. And in this case, I found Sidewall Pizza Company, which is in what used to be an old school building on the south side of town. It's kind of discreet and tucked away, a hidden gem, if you will. But it's Thursday around midday on September 3rd, 2020, and I'm going to call that a wrap for the week. I hope you enjoyed this week's adventure, and thank you, as always, for following along, and I'll catch up with you again next week.